for the department totals $354.2 million. The budget includes $28.1 million general fund, $5.4 million Measure 76 lottery funds, $184.5 million other funds, $136.2 million federal funds, and 1,368 positions, or 1,148 FTE. The total funds budget is 1.4% lower, and the total number of positions is 7.2% lower than the 15-17 legislatively approved budget level, with general fund support 10% lower than 15-17. General fund reductions include eliminating the remainder of the Western Oregon Stream Restoration Program, eliminating 3 fish monitoring positions, and eliminating the final general fund payment to the Columbia River Fisheries Transition Fund. The Transition Fund has never been accessed since its creation in the 13-15 biennium. The total number of positions is 7.2% lower than 15-17, due largely to the elimination of 82 vacant positions. Federal funds expenditure limitation is 4.6% lower than 15-17 to better align the budget with more realistic expectations of federal expenditure levels. The Joint Committee on Ways and Means recommends approval of House Bill 5010 as amended. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion, Representative Nearman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to declare a potential conflict of interest as my wife works for the Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Your potential conflict is noted, but you need to make sure you file your conflict with the Chief Clerk's office.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Representative Gomberg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. To the bill.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to begin by thanking the carrier and the committee for their careful and deliberate work on this budget. And I do understand it's necessary that this budget moves forward today. But that being said, I do have some concerns. In fact, I have some objections that included in this budget and also the budget for the Department of Agriculture. It's a total of $900,000 allocated in a no-bid contract to an organization called Wildlife Services. And that contract is for the purpose of dealing with predators and with nuisance animals. Now, Mr. Speaker, I may surprise some in this chamber when I say to you that I believe that if animals are a danger to people or property, that they should be removed or destroyed. I believe that. In the last year, Wildlife Services destroyed 88,000 animals here in Oregon. 88,000. And they did that with methods that included the use of cyanide booby traps, leg hold traps, and wire snares. Now, it's interesting to me that 88,000 takings were reported, but the anecdotal evidence is that for every animal caught in these traps that's a targeted animal, they also take an average of one more animal that's not targeted. Their reports show 88,000 taken, but their reports also show a grand total of 22 animals that were non-targeted in the same period of time. 88,000 versus 22. Mr. Speaker, a number that just defies credibility, if I could say that. Now, we have read a great deal of late about these cyanide booby traps that are just as likely in taking of targeted animals to take non-targeted animals, whether they be protected species such as wolves or more familiar animals such as our neighborhood dogs, and in fact infecting some of our own children. I am pleased that the committee has included a budget note that says that state funds cannot be used for deploying these notorious cyanide booby traps. But the testimony in the Ways and Means review of this budget indicated that while the department cannot use, or the Wildlife Services cannot use state monies, they can use other funds and continue to deploy these devices here in Oregon. And should they not rely on these poison traps, then instead they would fall back on other uses such as wire snares or leg hold traps. So instead of poisoning an animal, we are going to slowly strangle it to death, or we're going to leave it caught to slowly starve to death unless it chooses to gnaw off its own foot to escape. Those are the options that we presented here today. Mr. Speaker, I would suggest a different option. And again, I'm going to surprise some members in this chamber when I say that I believe that our own Oregon hunters can do a better job than Wildlife Services could. I think they will do a better job because they will make fewer mistakes. I believe they'll do a better job because they'll be more humane in their actions. I think that we have greater control over our Oregon hunters in the issuing of permits and tags in this process. And oh, by the way, we'll save the state nearly $1 million that we're sending to somebody else to do the same job. Mr. Speaker, Wildlife Services, they are indiscriminate in their actions. They're indifferent to the results and the collateral damage. I believe that we can do a better job. I believe the state of Oregon can do a better job than we're currently doing by deploying these atrocious methods that many, if not most, Oregonians would object to. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.